Welcome to HortTube. My name is John Putnam. It's rare that I actually get to come back and follow up on one of these quick design videos we've done. I did one in Dallas a few weeks back, which is where I'm standing right now. I just did one in Denver, hoping to go back there to my buddy's house at some point and see what changes he's made in his front garden over in Denver. But here in just a few weeks, Nicole and Richard really got on this project very quickly, and they just jumped all in. This entire back garden here in Dallas was just weedy grass. There's a little bit of Bermuda grass in it, but it's mostly just weedy grass. There's a southern hackberry back here, and it was limbed all the way to the bottom, okay? And it just looks like a shrub. And when you get an ornamental tree like this, we had this in the Raleigh garden. There was a red bud in the back right corner, but it wasn't all the way in the corner. It was like this. And you just couldn't see around it at all. But they've been able to limb this up, and now they basically have this whole back corner they could plant. I recommended they put a path around the tree, and you can see they installed that. You're looking at the top-down view from the drone. I had drawn basically I guess this is like a teardrop shaped piece of turf back here that they quickly went in and edged. And then they actually used a piece of plastic edging all the way around it. And typically I'll trench edge something, but it's whatever anybody, if it's what you like, that's the main thing. And nobody's the police on this kind of thing. If you like to have that very defined edge, like a plastic edge or a stone edge or whatever it is that you want to divide the lawn between the turf and the retaining walls, whatever, and the beds, you do you. They used a chunky pine bark as the mulch back here, which is really good. It's a light material, so it's pretty easy to carry off, and this is a pretty flat space, and so you can really get away with using pine bark as your mulch in this type of space. If this were on a slope, this chunkier bark here, like this, so this is the bark of a pine tree, right? And you may have a bark of a different type of tree if you're out west, but the thing is really light. I mean, I can't even tell you how light this actually is. It works perfect in a flat space like this. You give this a little bit of slope though, these things float, and it would be a bit of an issue. So they defined the turf in the exact plan, the plan that we had, and then they set out to make this this path to connect from the back patio or the back deck, the wooden deck here. They made a path to the seating area right here, and then did a separate one off of here going to the side gate so that they could get material in here. This can be serviced rather easily. I probably, would put a stone or something right here in this spot just to make sure that even in the future I can still go through here, or here, wherever. I still want to be able to get to that back corner as easy as possible. If I put a plant here, that's going to stop that from happening in the future. I had talked about using smaller growing plants along the edge of the patio, which they've done. There's one conifer here that'll get a bit bigger, but they've used a combination of gardenias, low hollies, low growing abelia, sunshine ligustrum, this can be kept whatever size, but it can get big if you let it. A dwarf butterfly bush, lots of different low growing things. In the future, most of this stuff can be kept like this, and if you're sitting down, you'll be hidden a bit. If you stand back up though, it's not gonna feel like you're in a prison back here. Again, this path, Steph, you wanna follow me on the path back here? The path really afforded the ability to put some smaller growing things along the edge, and she's used some of the dwarf butterfly bushes for that, and that's Lil Lavender, the butterfly candy. She has, I think, all the butterfly candy butterfly bushes out here, and then she's got Radiance Abelia, some of the better boxwoods, but it allowed for lower growing things to go along the edge of the path, and then progressively larger things to go up. This has only been about 6 weeks, so they've done all this. They got that grass cut in, they put that plastic edging in, they put the paths in, they limbed the tree up, and they've put lots of plants in. It's Dallas, and Dallas can be a tough place. You may find that during the next summer, something is not performing quite as well in the space you put it in, and you may need to rescue something into slightly more shade. You know, I think that's going to be the case for a lot of people in this really tough kind of Texas, you know, Texas sun in the summertime. We had talked about putting some sort of small ornamental tree back here in the corner, and they put the Stella Ruby Magnolia back here, which should be a nice upright, narrow evergreen piece in the background here. One of the variegated Elaeagnus back here. One thing, you know, that I might consider doing as they go forward, finding more plants for out here, is to do, because there's a lot more space. I mean, this is only 6 weeks in the making. They've done a heck of a lot, really, in this amount of time. And of course, here in Dallas, this is a good time of year to be planting, because you're going to, you know, it's easier to work outside, and it's, you know, a little more moisture here during the winter time that you can, you know, get things rooted in and established. So I would definitely be throwing energy at getting things in the ground this time of year. But I might do a few more groupings. You know, we're all in on one of everything in the Raleigh garden for sure, but we do have some areas. If you toured that garden before, you know, when we had the open garden last year, there are places in that garden where we intentionally have 3 of something, 5 of something, small groupings of things. Even some of that's done with annuals, where we have groupings of annuals that can be the thing that's tying those little onesies together. So that might be something, you know, going forward, you know, finding a few small groupings of things that would be helpful to the overall design. And then I think another thing that's going to happen back here is they sprayed all of this out, you know, to get started on this project as quick as possible to be able to do something on it this fall. They sprayed it all out. Well, as soon as you cover this with mulch and you get it a little bit moist, they've had a few rains now, there's a huge seed bank back here. So I think initially there's going to be, and I can already see things germinating in here, some winter weeds germinating in here. So I think that there's going to be a round of weeds pretty quickly that are probably going to need to be knocked down in some way, either pulled, physically removed, sprayed, whatever. Doesn't matter, you know, whatever technique you would use. But I do think that they're going to see an initial kind of wave. You know, what you want is to hopefully not have any of these weeds come up and then fill in and seed themselves and the seed bank grow. You'd like to have this big flush of seedling things come up and then get them out of here. And that way, those are seeds that are gone, right? And they're not producing any more seed in the future. But I think overall, you know, this was the design we had laid out, and you could see in the overhead footage from when I was here before, you know, I just sprayed lines out on the ground and sprayed, basically I just sprayed the center of this path around the tree, and then they measured it out, you know, to get the width correct, and they used the edging on it. And again, everybody's going to use different materials. We have wood chips for our paths, and then hardwood mulch in our beds. They have pea gravel in their paths and pine bark nuggets as their mulch. So that, you know, everybody's going to have different things they want to use. I use a trench edge. They used a plastic edge. You might use a concrete edge, especially if you're in floor. You know, if you got a creeping grass and you're trying to keep it out of the beds, you may put in some sort of permanent edging around it. So everybody's going to have different things at that point. But the main thing is to get an initial design out that, number one, allows you to maintain it in the future, which is what we're doing here by having these paths interconnect, and also makes it slightly easier to design by not having 30 foot of space back here off this lawn to figure out increasing sizes of things all the way back. By having this path in here, it's easier to maintain, and we can stage smaller things near the bed edges and larger things back toward the back with a little less depth to worry about. But I think overall, the design, the layout is good. They've got that installed. I think ultimately, again, they'll probably have to tweak a few plants. This Dallas area is just really, really tough to figure out what to grow, where to grow. They may look at a few you know, Texas natives, you know, to throw in here, and maybe some of the tougher conditions that they find. If they're finding that they just can't get something to grow in a particular spot, maybe that'll be something to lean on. But there you go. I actually got to update one of these, you know, these design videos that I've done a few of them on the channel now. And I enjoy, you know, using the drone up above, because I think it gives a good detail about how to, you know, paint these lines on the ground. You can lay out a water hose for this. There's lots of different ways that you can lay these things out. You don't have to just jump right in and do them like that. You can rearrange them. You can repaint the lines. You can live with the design painted on the ground for a few days, and then jump in and, you know, once you've settled on the particular one. You can do the same thing with the plants too. You don't have to sink them all in the ground. You can move the containers around a bit and just make sure that you're, kind of live with them in those spaces for a few days before you settle on them in the future. But there you go. Dallas design video, and hats off to Nicole and Richard. In just a few weeks here, they've turned this, was all just kind of a weedy lawn space, just a mowed weedy lawn space, into, a really nice, well-functioning space that they now have lots of opportunity to buy plants and do the fun parts of gardening in the future. Thanks for watching.